Patient Travel, Workplace Accommodations, and First Responder Support. Want to let you know that before we begin, this is not personal medical advice. Conversations are based on personal experience and peer support, not clinical recommendations. Please consult your doctor. Always talk to your healthcare provider before making any changes to your treatment, medications, or routine. Here, we respect all journeys. Everyone's experience with narcolepsy or idiopathic hypersomnia is unique and valid. Let's keep this a safe and supportive place. Now, we want to say there's a recording notice to let you guys know that NapChat sessions are recorded. So members who cannot attend live can watch later in our session after. If you prefer to not be in the recording, please turn off your camera before the session. In participation note, you may submit your questions in the meeting at any time through your messenger. All participants will be muted during the guest speaker's presentation. You're welcome to unmute yourself and join the conversation during the Q&A session after. And today we're switching it up, and I'm Rachel Nesmith, a PWN volunteer, community outreach volunteer, and I'm the host of NapChat today. And I'm here to introduce my wonderful Superior Program Director and co-host, Alejandro Bernasolis. So you can wave to everybody. Everybody loves Alejandro. There you go. And I want to say, we want to say thank you to our sponsors for making these programs possible, Avadel and Takeda. We're here for people with IH. We have several great programs that you can participate in that have provided excellent value for no cost for patients and their caregivers. We have the Jobs Project, where we have Sam Velu. He is a professional recruiter, resume ninja, an AI genius here to help us navigate the modern competitive world of employment. And he's willing to review your resume and give you tips. And Health and Wellness 360 is a really good program this year. We've partnered with Narcolepsy Life Academy and with Paul Paulos, and it really helps people eat and sleep better and get in shape and work out and better health, especially for people with narcolepsy and IH by a person with people with narcolepsy. And NapChat, which we love. We love our NapChat digital community, as well as these monthly NapChats. And yeah, right now we have with the Jobs Project, we're really excited about our Udemy program because I can speak from personal experience that the applications are open and the skills that I've been able to learn have really helped me in the real world, and I just continue on to grow, and it is harder for us to succeed professionally. We it's completely free if you have IH or idiopathic hypersomnia or narcolepsy and their caregivers. And you can get these courses and licenses. NapChat Live, we're actually going to have 2 NapChats this month. It will be with our with Tara O'Connor. She is she's the founder of Little Sleep Wonders, and she is also a former sleep technician at a sleep center in Maine. Tara will walk us through how to understand your MSLT. I think she's using Alejandro's, and it can really help you understand some things that you may not be able to on your MSLT, and you can feel like a doctor. And this is the Sam Velu. He's he is the leader consultant for the AI workshops and job seeking program. He helped me with my resume. He is a recruitment and hiring technology support. If you're feeling stuck in your job or you feel you need direction, he's the man to contact. And tomorrow is Co-Strong Narcolepsy and IH support group with the wonderful Dr. Harsh. Dr. Harsh is going to go over some of the recent clinical trials, as well as he'll focus on 2 different investigational treatments, and it will be fascinating to learn about them. So join us. And it's my pleasure to introduce our special TSA special guest, Mrs. Tracy Hall. She's a disability and multicultural branch rights and liberties ombudsman and traveler engagement. So take it away, Tracy.
Thank you, Rachel, and also thank you, Alejandro, for the offer to come and speak to your community. I greatly appreciate it. So I am the operations manager for what we now call the External Civil Rights Branch for TSA. And our office is responsible for making sure that the traveling public, their rights are really preserved, to be honest. Best way to put it, we make sure that any complaints that come to the agency from a civil rights perspective are adjudicated by our staff to make sure that if something could have been done differently, we either conduct training to get that done or may write a resource to ensure that officers do what they're meant to do at the screening checkpoint. So again, thank you all for allowing me to come. I have quite a bit to go over, so I'm glad this is recorded. There will be time for Q&A once I'm done, but I want to start off by just reiterating that TSA's mission is to protect the nation's transportation systems to ensure freedom of movement for people in commerce. This freedom of movement for people includes individuals with disabilities. Our vision is to be an agile security agency embodied by a professional workforce that engages its partners and to outmatch any dynamic threats that exist. And engaging with you as a partner is one of the ways we hope to achieve this vision. TSA uses a layered approach to security screening by incorporating unpredictable screening measures, both seen and unseen, to accomplish our mission. Passenger screening at the airport is part of TSA's layered approach to security to get you safely to your destinations. We screen using screening procedures that are intended to prevent prohibited items and other threats to transportation security from entering the sterile or secure area of the airport, and are developed in response to information on threats and transportation security. So this applies to every individual and item that pass through security screening. All passengers and their property are required to undergo screening at the checkpoint. To give you an idea of the scope of our work, we screen over 2 million people and over 3.3 million carry-on and over 1.3 million checked baggage for explosives and other dangerous items daily to ensure air travel is safe. TSA security screening policies and procedures, as well as our practices, must comply with all applicable civil rights and liberties laws, regulations, executive orders, and policies, and must not discriminate against passengers based on race, color, national origin, sex, religion, age, and disability. So during this, please note I cannot provide individualized solutions. However, what I can discuss are the programs and structures we have in place in broad terms, specifically given that each of us are different and the solutions that may work for one person may not necessarily work for another individual. Also, most of the information that I will share with you today is publicly available on our website, tsa.gov. I will show a quick screen on how where you can find information on our website to make it easier when you do go on the site. As you prepare for security screening, we do want to provide you with a few things we would like to bring to your attention. So first, if you plan to use your state issued ID or license to fly within the United States, make sure it is a real ID. We are now, as of February 1st, only accepting real ID compliant identification cards, or we will take other acceptable forms of ID. I will show you where that list is on our website as well. You want to check with your State Department of Motor Vehicles to make sure your ID complies with real ID requirements. Typically, this means your ID has a star or a flag, or it says enhanced. Travelers with valid acceptable forms of ID, like a real ID or a passport, they do not need to use the TSA Confirm ID. TSA Confirm ID is a modernized alternative identity verification process. So impacted travelers will have the option to visit tsa.gov/confirm ID and pay the $45 via pay.gov and receive a receipt of their payment. So if you do not have a real ID or an acceptable form of ID, that is now the process that you will have to go through. And I will show you where that is on our website as well. We also have TSA PreCheck, which allows you to have an expedited screening experience, and you don't need to remove your shoes, laptops, liquids, belts, light jackets during the screening process. Screening is conducted using technology like the walk-through metal detector or advanced imaging technology, which is a body scanner. We have strict privacy standards that we do adhere to protect your privacy during screening. If you are not able to go through technology, or if the technology alarms, meaning it is not fully able to screen you, you will receive what we call pat-down screening. Pat-down procedures are used to determine whether prohibited items or other threats to transportation security are concealed on a person. A pat-down may include inspection of the head, neck, arms, torso, legs, and feet. This includes head coverings and sensitive areas such as breast, groin, and the buttocks. You may be required to adjust clothing during the pat-down. The officer will advise you of the procedure to help you anticipate any actions before you feel them. So you should be receiving advisements. That is very important during this process. Pat downs require sufficient pressure to ensure detection. So that is also something important that we like to stress. And areas may undergo a pat down more than once for the TSA officer to confirm no threat items are detected. TSA officers use the back of the hands for pat downs over sensitive areas of the body. In limited cases, there may be additional screening involved where a sensitive area pat down with the front of the hands may be needed to determine that a threat does not exist. I will stress that during the process, you can ask questions. You can ask for explanations, but we just want to prepare you for what could happen. Not that it may, but what could happen. So you will receive a pat down by an officer of the same sex. TSA officers will explain the procedures to you as they conduct the pat down. Please inform an officer if you have difficulty raising your arms, or remaining in a position required. An external medical device or areas of the body that are painful when touched. You may request a chair if you need to be seated. There are some locations that also have TSA issued canes. Not every checkpoint is going to have the same resources, but there are resources available upon request. We do ask officers to engage in what we call my goodness, I can't even think of the word. It basically is a conversation. Uh, they should be having a conversation with you. We look for that when we receive complaints. We need to make sure that officers are engaging, as well as we do look for travelers to notify officers if an accommodation is needed. But that interactive dialogue, that's what I was looking for. That's what we're looking for when you're at the checkpoint and having conversations with the officers. At any time during the process, you may request private screening, accompanied by a companion of your choice. A second officer of the same sex will always be present during private screening. I do want you to know that TSA has modified procedures to ensure that your screening experience is smooth and seamless. So, our branch, which is the External Civil Rights Branch, is involved in the development of these modified screening procedures, and we provide training to the workforce on and how to effectively engage with individuals with disabilities. So, to assist you with the screening procedures, we have a few things in place for you. If you need assistance during screening, you or your traveling companion may talk to a TSA officer about the best way to complete the screening process. You may inform the officer of your disability or medical condition verbally, in writing by using a TSA notification card, which you can download from our website, or by providing any medical documentation that you have. TSA Cares is another program we have in place for individuals who may need assistance with screening. You may reach out to TSA Cares at 855-787-2227. They are open from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. on weekdays and 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. on weekends. This helpline provides information on security procedures so you can learn before you get to the checkpoint on what to expect during the process. Another program that we have is the Passenger Support Specialist Program. This program is free. A PSS, which is the Passenger Support Specialist, is a TSA officer who has received specialized training, including how to effectively assist and communicate with individuals with disabilities or medical conditions, and passengers who just need additional screening assistance. Requesting a PSS does not exempt you from any type of screening. However, the additional training that they receive is developed by our office as well, with the input of multiple advocacy and community organizations like yours. Now, a few things about that program. Airport wheelchair service is provided by your airline, so TSA does not provide this service. The PSS program does not provide expedited screening. Requesting PSS does not exempt you from screening. However, we do recommend that you contact TSA Cares at least 72 hours prior to your scheduled flight. This will allow the TSA Contact Center to share your information with the relevant airport and allow them to determine in advance the resources you may need during your screening. The more information you provide, the better prepared we are to assist you. Now, while we do not ask you to provide us information about your disability or medical condition, any information you can provide about the following will help us assist you better. For instance, what you can or cannot do. And examples can include you can stand but can't walk independently. You cannot stand for more than a specific amount of time. You cannot raise your arms. You will need to stay in a wheelchair for screening. If you have an internal or external medical device that may affect your ability to use technology, you will be traveling with medically necessary liquids, gels, or aerosols in excess of 3 ounces, traveling with a service animal, or that you may have difficulty in communication or following instructions. So, with all of this, we have processes and policies in place to protect you and ensure your civil rights are protected. However, if you feel that you have been subjected to discrimination during your screening, please let us know right away. You can do this by asking to speak to a supervisor or a manager at the checkpoint. You can also file a complaint on our website. So our office investigates, like I said, and resolves civil rights and liberties complaints filed by the public alleging discrimination at TSA security screening during the screening checkpoint or the screening process, at all federalized airports. And so again, all this information can be found on TSA.gov. What I can do is walk through some of the areas on the website where you can find, especially like the complaints and things of that nature. So I'll do that now, and then I can turn it over for any questions anyone may have. All right. Are you all seeing my screen? The TSA.gov website? Okay, yes. Perfect. So as I discussed, we introduced the new $45 fee for individuals without a real ID card. You can find this on our homepage along with some other things. So this again is going to talk about if you don't have an acceptable form of identification, you can learn more here. So that is very important right now because what you don't want to do is delay your ability to make your flight because the process could cause a delay. when you get to the checkpoint. So if you don't have a real ID, we do stress that you get one. However, if you're unable to before travel, we do stress that you just take a look at the website to see how you can prepare yourself before arrival at the checkpoint. Again, we also have families on the fly. These are dedicated lanes specific to families to kind of ease the stress of traveling. We also have some programs in place for military, also discount for pre-check. DHS did end taking the shoes off policy. It does not exempt you if there is an alarm. They may have to come off, but the standard is that they want to make it easier for everyone to travel. So now you can keep your shoes on regardless if you have TSA pre-check as well. When it comes to travel, if you want to see anything related to, I would say anything related to travel and TSA. If you go to the travel tab, this is going to be the most important tab. So it tells you what you can bring. You can bring medically necessary items in excess of 3 ounces if it is medically necessary. However, the officer needs to know that it's medically necessary before the screening starts because the general public has to keep their items under 3 ounces, 3 ounces or less, excuse me. So this will equip you with the information that you may need for that. Anything related to the TSA confirm ID verification process, real ID, any emerging technology. In terms of my office, we work very closely with the group that is responsible for TSA.gov. If you come under TSA Cares and you select disabilities and medical conditions, it will take you to our site, which will go over anything and everything we could think of. If you're blind, have low vision, implants, internal medical devices, what we do is provide the information that we can, that it's not going to be specific to every piece of the security process because we have to obviously keep a lot of that within discretion, but it will give you an idea of what to expect. And again, you can contact TSA Contact Center for any questions you may have related to your circumstance. But this is where you want to go when you're looking for something specific. If you look here to the left, you'll see an area for religion, tribal and indigenous, passenger support specialist program, military. You can file a complaint here. So this is where you would select if you were interested or you experienced something at a checkpoint and you felt like you wanted to let us know that you have a complaint. You would go here and then you would select once you click on complaint, civil rights and liberties, and it will allow you to submit a complaint. We also have missing items, screening items, customer service. As you can see in the previous screen, we also take compliments. We like to know when we're doing things right. That is very helpful for our officers who have a very difficult job. So there's a balance there, right? We have the compliments, we have the complaints. If you need to request information, if you are interested in TSA Cares. So again, the site is very comprehensive. We have a lot of everything, a whole page dedicated to Real ID and the standard that we have starting February 1st. So I would say to better equip yourself with the traveling experience based on, again, your situation. TSA.gov is a valuable resource and then the TSA Contact Center is also a valuable resource as well. So that's pretty much all that I have that I wanted to cover. So I'll turn it over any questions that anyone may have.
Anybody got
Uh,
any questions? Oh, wait, go ahead, go ahead.
I've got one. This is Kevin Kuchpinski. I've traveled quite a bit with jobs and such in the past, and I've had also TSA pre-check, and then it expired for a bit, and then I got it back again. But where I've run into trouble is sometimes the pressure, the speed pressure, either at the checkpoint or boarding or whatnot. And I have cataplexy issues, but I don't know how you notify someone beforehand that you may have trouble communicating or whatnot, like if it's a cataplexy issue. I started wearing like a medic alert kind of dog tag,
Oh, good.
but
Mhm.
it requires that somebody scan it in order to actually get any information off of it. But that's where I run into trouble is that, like, even if you're having trouble talking and you're trying to, if I can kind of slow things down and just take a deep breath, then I can kind of get back to normal again. But I've noticed that a lot of times people don't know what to do with that pause.
Right.
When I'm not talking, then they start talking and adding more pressure to the situation, and it makes it harder to recover. So my
Yeah.
problem is kind of that I don't know if there's a way to be, to have it like, gosh, it'd be great if you could just put it in like notes in pre-check or something so that it would come up as you scan the ID or whatever. But yeah, it's the where I've run into trouble in the past is, if I can communicate, we get through everything just fine. But if, kind of get some pressure and then I slow down and I can't communicate or comply with an instruction, and then things get worse because I can't tell them what's going on. And so anyway, I was wondering if you had any advice or possibly any plans for of how to inform the agents, that you of these issues before you have a problem.
Thank you for the question. So, my recommendation, given the circumstance that you explained, would be to leverage the passenger support specialist program. The reason why I say that is because that program allows for you to slow down and really go at the pace that's best for you. I'm sure as you experience when you're at the checkpoint, it's moving very fast, and also it's a lot of distractions at the airport in terms of like noise and all the things around, which can make communicating very difficult as well. So the passenger support specialist program allows for the airport to set up a officer to actually work one-on-one with you, where you're going to get a more I want to say tailored experience, right? Because versus you coming up to an officer who may be working their specific position and can't leave that position, or you may feel like it's too late to talk to someone because the pressure of people behind you, in front of you, them telling you what to do and all the things. If you contact the TSA contact center and say, I would like to request a passenger support specialist, and that is it can be your departing and arriving flight. It can be both ways. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And it is free. You can say, I would like assistance because there are times where I have difficulty communicating under pressure or whatever your situation looks like. You can let us know in advance. The contact center will notify that particular airport, and that airport will communicate with you and say, hey, we understand that you're traveling on this day at this time. We're going to have someone with you to go through the screening process alongside you. And I think that's a better way to um, give yourself the opportunity not to feel pressure because they know that they're there to assist you. And those particular officers they have been trained by my office specifically to understand some of these challenges that you have expressed in a what can be an overwhelming environment at the checkpoint. So that would be my recommendation. But if you don't have let's say you don't have the time to set that up, the TSA notification card is another way to communicate without having to talk to the officers in those circumstances. And they should be acknowledging whatever you provide to them in terms of documentation. And if they don't, we need to know that. That's why we tell our partners, please file a complaint if you feel like something should have been done differently, because there's no way for us to know unless a complaint is actually filed. And then we
Yeah.
can address those concerns specifically with that airport. But whether it be a TSA notification card that you can download from the website or documentation that you want to provide to that officer to let them know, they should be acknowledging it.
Okay, thank you very much. One question about if it, like I think the path I probably want to take is a notification card.
Okay.
But just because when I do travel, it's usually good, quite a bit. But asking for a support specialist, what my concern would be there, and is that, and you may already have an answer for it because you are experiencing it, but with flights. change and get delayed, and things move all the time. And I found that when I like try to set essentially like an appointment or something like this, it can often go bad, or not work out because of the how dynamic the schedules are these days.
And that can happen. We are working. Obviously, I think most people see that attrition with the government has changed. We are working on all of those things, but I would say with that particular program, I would at least try it, because if they know you're coming and you have a delay or something happens, they should be providing you a way to communicate with them, so that you can notify them of maybe your the plane's delay, or whatever
Mhm.
that looks like in terms of the circumstance. So I would always say try it to see how you like it.
Okay.
In any
Mhm.
situation, if it doesn't work out the way it was intended to, you can always ask for a supervisor. Hands down, there will be a supervisor at the checkpoint, and you can let them know that you want a supervisor. But I would say, see how
Mhm.
that program works for you. The notification card is absolutely a good way to fill in that gap. You can do
Mhm.
both if you want to. But they should have measures in place if there were like a delay in your flight or something of that sort, to at least communicate with you, so they know that you won't be coming at the designated time that you said that you would, because they do build those requests into the system and they do track them.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Solomon.
Hey, so I've heard of the lanyard that you can wear, which might be
Mhm.
another option to have along with that card. I don't know if like you'd want to put the card directly on it if punch the hole or whatever onto the lanyard. That might be a little much, but
Yeah.
that's just a
I,
thought.
I carry your card, Solomon, on my lanyard, sunflower lanyard, whenever I travel now.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's a great idea. There are a lot of officers, a lot of airports that are familiar with the Sunflower program. Like for instance, I know Charlotte is very familiar, that airport, with that program. There will be, like with anything, some individuals who may not be familiar. But what I will tell you are passenger support specialists. They are officers. They have different epaulets on their shoulder boards. So it will have a yellow line on it, and that was so that they are easily identifiable when you're at the checkpoint. So you can also look for that as well, but those officers will fill in the gap if you feel like something is not going properly. But again, supervisors are trained on these circumstances too. So but I do agree, if you want to do the notification card on a lanyard, like with the information that you have on your sunflower note note placard that you have on your lanyard, you can do that too. Whatever you feel like is going to get you and your needs best addressed, I would say leverage it and have a conversation with the officers, because they should be slowing down enough to listen and speak to you.
I think are those lanyards, do you know where to get them, or are they available at the airport sometimes?
That I don't know, because the Sunflower program isn't
Yeah,
ours. That
Okay.
is a third party that manages that
yeah.
particular program. The notification card is something that is on our website, but that's a downloadable PDF file. So that's a little different than what that lanyard is.
Yeah, as far as I know for the lanyard, because we're a part of the Sunfire lanyard, and eventually we'll be able to start handing those out. But we
Okay.
have to get training and all that. From what I understand, when we met with them, it's at the customer service center at certain airports. So again, to what Tracy's
Mhm.
point is, if the airport participates in it, then it's going to be at the customer service center. For example, they also let us know, like LAX, that airport's being trained on it at the moment. So they're still getting trained. And you
Oh,
got to think about how large of a staff that is
For
for training,
sure.
right?
And I'll
Um,
I'll add that the airport websites they have a wealth of information. Like a lot of people don't necessarily go on a specific airport's website, but I would say alongside TSA's, go on the airport's website and it will give you information, I'm sure, if they participate in that program or if they participate in any program, honestly. That's how I found out about Charlotte. Someone asked me about that specific airport. I said, you know what? I don't know. Let me go on a website. And they have so much information on that website. It's really valuable information. So that would be another resource that if you know you're traveling through, Albuquerque and Dallas, check out those websites and see what programs they also offer in addition to what we offer.
And Tracy, my question, this is always a big question, we always see in our Facebook groups and again, it's traveling with that liquid medication, which is, it's a sodium oxybate. So again, highly regulated, right? Now I myself never had any issues, but I just remember I made it known. So once I was at the checkpoint, I took it out of my bag and I let them know I have this medication. Then they took it over somewhere. I think they put it under a light or did something and then brought it back to me and I was good to go. Is that pretty much the procedure? You just present it to them?
That is the key. They need to be made aware that it's medically necessary because they're not going to assume anything. So if you let them know before the process starts, you can let them know during the process because sometimes people really do forget that they're carrying medically necessary items. But if you let them know that it's medically necessary, they should be screening it and allowing it to go. Now, if you find that that doesn't happen, that's something we need to know. And they should not be questioning the validity of what you're saying is medically necessary because in the past our office has seen complaints that come in that could be something as simple as sunscreen for cancer, but it's over the counter. They should not be questioning that. You should just be notifying them of its presence, letting them know you have it, and then from there they do what they need to do in terms of additional screening. So exactly, you hit the nail on the head with that. Just letting them know is the most important part of that process.
Right. Yeah. And I also just, to point out since we're recording this, for those people, this is only for the United States. Other countries have totally different rules where those countries might even confiscate. So you're probably going to have to get in touch with that country ahead of time to make sure you understand that process.
Yep. Thank you for that clarification. Absolutely.
You bet. Any other questions, anybody?
I'll just say I put a suggestion in the chat that like having a printed out brochure or just the definitions of the disease and the symptoms, especially if cataplexy is an issue, and then, like highlighting the cataplexy, for instance, so that you can just pull it out of your pocket if you're in that situation and hand it to them. That can be helpful to keep you from having to like put it into words.
Yeah. Yep, yeah, that's I carried a bunch of stuff with me, and like I said, I had that ID thing made. And but to the point you made about traveling overseas, there's like and another thing to be aware of that was an example from I recently went to Australia, and simple medications that were given, for narcolepsy, like Adderall, a lot of the stimulants, they're completely illegal in Australia, even even for a doctor to prescribe. They were okay with it as long as I declared it, but yeah, just be aware of it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yes.
Mm.
Anybody else before Tracy leaves? All right.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, I appreciate the invitation, and I'm, like I said, more than happy to come back if you all would like me to.
Yeah.
Hopefully I was able to answer, some of the questions that you all may have. If not, me and Alejandro have been in touch. You can certainly email me and I will answer any questions that way as well. But I thank you all for your time
Thank
and
you.
allowing me to speak today. Yes,
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Thank you
We
so
appreciate
Thank
much.
you
you.
so
Yeah.
much.
you're
Deal. Yeah.
welcome. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, hang on. We're going to talk about some other things. Thank you so much, Tracy. Tracy's going to
Thank you.
drop off. But yeah, we're going to continue this conversation. So one of the things that I want to share with all of you is just to kind of, close on the TSA thing here is the TSA, we joined their coalition. And that is not the one I want you all to see. It is, where are you at? Where are you at? I had dropped it. Actually, I dropped it for you guys in the chat. And just so you know, I gotta find it. Sorry about that, everybody. I want you all to see this one. Here we go. All right. Kind of like to Solomon's point. I mean, great, kind of, right? Because Solomon's talking about like if you're somebody that actually has cataplexy, you can pull something out that, explains kind of what's going on. So what we developed with the TSA is, and keep in mind, again, this is rolling out to agents, it's not going to be one of the quickest things that everybody, don't expect for it to be in their hands, but it is something that is rolling out to them, right? So that, their officers know what is cataplexy. And again, we have Solomon and also Rachel that also worked with this, worked with them on this. So that they can understand what they need to do and things to avoid, right? Not assuming they're on something, because we've heard that a lot. So there is that. But then for everyone else, if you're somebody that is getting ready to travel, we do have our toolkit here. Now we make this available in our NapChat digital community. So again, this does prepare you to travel smarter, right? So, and it's a 2-pager. Again, this is kind of like what you saw with the TSA, one I just showed you, just what is cataplexy, what does it look like? And then these are just some tips on to travel smarter, like getting a hold of TSA cares, maybe having somebody work with you from, the department, to help you kind of move along and not be stressed out, during that process. So it's a great little toolkit for you to have access to. And then hopefully eventually, as we develop our cool tips even more, maybe we'll have like a QR code that it's just simple. You're not having to carry this piece of paper with you. So just more to come as we're developing all this. But it is really exciting to, have one of our organizations like us, working with the TSA to understand this. I mean, and again, what inspired us to work with the TSA is, having Rachel, her going through, a couple of times. And one of those times, we were traveling with her when we were in Seattle, and she was held up because she was having a cataplexy episode. And again, the assumption was, what is this person on? They assume drugs, alcohol. And so that's what triggered this. So we're hoping that, as the future progresses, these agents will start to be able to recognize what is a sleep attack, what is cataplexy, instead of, oh my God, there's somebody's drunk or high on something.
Yeah, I agree. That's what everyone always tells me when I have one is I either look like I'm drunk or on some kind of narcotic. But
Right?
but the thing that scares me about that, I'm just mentioning it to you guys because I think it's related. The thing that scares me about that more than TSA is actually getting pulled over, like, by a state law enforcement, because they have certain, I have some friends that, are state troopers and in the sheriff's department and whatnot, and they have certain ways of dealing with stuff. And, if they think you're on something or you're drunk, things can go south very, very
Oh,
fast
yeah.
Big time.
before you in trying to back it out and correct it. Like, you might end up like handcuffed in the back of the car or even all the way to somewhere to be tested before it, and there's nothing you can nothing you can do about it. You're
Right.
essentially detained. So that scares me even more than
Yep.
TSA.
Me
Oh
too.
yeah, and that's actually what we're going to be talking about here in the next few minutes is creating a toolkit for that, because we've actually have a couple of experiences we'll share in relation to that. One thing I realized, I wasn't sharing my screen, but this is actually what the TSA uses. So all of the officers, will have access to this. So we worked with the TSA in creating this. So it is something that they have on hand. And then I was also talking about, our patient flyer toolkit, which we do keep in our under resources in our private community. So here, when you go to our private community under the resource vault, you will see everything here. Like again, the travel toolkit and the workplace accommodation one, which we're going to be talking about here next. But I wanted y'all to see that. All right. Okay, let me get to my presentation here. All right, everybody. Well, let's get into the nitty gritty of the accommodation toolkit. So, and let me just, oh, there we go. All right, ADA accommodation toolkit. So last year in the fall, we launched this toolkit. We worked with a lawyer. His name, and he's somebody that is a friend to the sleep community. So Andrew Kolsky, he is somebody that too feels like, he hasn't been diagnosed, but he feels like he has IH. So he's made it his mission to help people in the sleep community. He was also doing counseling too. I'm not sure if he's back to doing that, but I do know that he's back into practicing law. And so one of the big things, everybody in our community experiences, especially if you're in the workforce, is workplace accommodations. I myself, I'm a former HR professional. I mean, I came out of, corporate America and HR into, this space. And I can say, yes, it is a process that is failed. It's definitely a one process that the employer, unfortunately, sometimes just doesn't get right. And it's the communication breakdown, right? But then the employee, too, is also afraid to ask about those accommodations. And it also could be because of that company's culture, right? We also are very hard on ourselves in society. We think that, sleep, you can lack sleep, you can answer emails and do all this stuff at night and you get rewarded for it, right? But that's not the case. I mean, we make mistakes when we don't sleep. We have a lot of issues. But yeah, the accommodation checklist is definitely something to help you out, to take those steps, to kind of get that process going and to have that dialogue. And things just to be aware of. Like, again, you're going to work with an HR representative or you're going to work with their third-party vendor, like Sedgwick or something like that. Now, your manager should never be asking you personal questions. They will be in the know when they need to be in the know, right? For example, there might just be certain things that, for example, maybe you're going to be standing up for long periods of time and you need a chair here and there. They're going to know that, right? But they don't need to know the specific details. It is actually who you are working with, either in HR or, the third-party vendor. Now, a lot of major corporations tend to use these third-party vendors now. But it's a great checklist, so I highly recommend you guys check it out. If you're definitely looking into an accommodation. And then again, if you have some questions that are outside of this and you need to speak with Andrew, can definitely get you connected with Andrew. Any questions with the accommodation checklist? All right, we're gonna go to the next one
Looks
here.
great.
Yeah. All right. So our last and final one here is actually what we're going to talk about, the First Responder Toolkit. So, yeah, we are now in process here. We don't have it published yet. We're in the process of developing a First Responder Toolkit. And so the inspiration for this is one of our, an individual in the community reached out and said, hey, we need to have a toolkit because I got pulled over and I was ordered outside of the car and I was ordered to come, walk towards those two police officers. And I did at that time let them know I have narcolepsy with cataplexy and I'm really excited and I'm going to have cataplexy. And those officers did not listen. They did not care. Okay. That person had cataplexy, fell to the ground. And as they are having this cataplexy moment, hearing everything, they can hear the officers telling, basically calling her a liar, and they're slapped the handcuffs on her. Okay. So she has handcuffs on her. She's put into a patrol car. Eventually, she's taken to the hospital. And that is where a medical professional, an RN, ordered those handcuffs off because that was when somebody noticed that no, this person had cataplexy, this person has narcolepsy, and you should have never put those handcuffs on. You made too much of a quick of a judgment. And so that's what inspired this. And then within a month, I met somebody else in our community. Similar kind of situation, but this time it blew my mind because it was actually at a clinical trial. For a Rexin clinical trial over at Stanford University. And it was earlier last year when this happened. This person, of course, qualified for the clinical trial. They live out of state. They are then flown out to participate. Now, Anybody that's been in clinical trials like this, you actually have to do a sleep study. So that's the first thing you do. You have to do a base sleep study. So this person went to the sleep clinic, in Stanford, to do the sleep study, and they were off their meds for a couple of weeks because they had to be off those meds, right, for this clinical trial. Well, they got claustrophobic. They didn't want to have all the stuff all over them. They were having issues, right? They let the technician know, and that was when the technician says, "Well, then you got to leave," right? And the person's like, "Where are you going to put me up? I mean, you guys, I have nowhere to stay." And it was like, "That's not our problem." Um, they called the police on this person. So the police showed up. They arrested this person, again, another female. They arrested her, trespassing charges. Uh,
Oh,
but the next day, after spending the night in jail, those charges were dropped. Especially, they did talk to the people that were in charge of the clinical trial at Stanford. Hopefully, that person did get an apology, but they were also out some money. That was the other messed up part. Like, they lost some money out of this, and that wouldn't have happened had they actually went through the actual clinical trial. But because they were arrested and all that stuff, yeah, not only were they arrested and had to go through that whole nightmare, but they also were out some money, and that's not okay. So
But
yeah, that is
yeah,
what has triggered this first responder toolkit. So in the coming months, we're going to work on this. I'm really proud of the police department here in Commerce City, Colorado. They actually have hired 3 or 4 individuals that now travel with the police for situations like this. So these are social workers that are going to prevent from people that should not be handcuffed. They're going to prevent that from happening. And
yeah,
that's actually what they were saying. They are using that language that we're not putting the handcuffs on. We want to help these people. So you are seeing more and more police departments, doing those types of things. So I'm going to start.
yeah. I think it's really important, and I've had like I said, I have some friends that work there, but I've also had my own run-ins with them, and it's absolutely traumatic. And if you are being pulled over and they're trying to give you instructions like to get out of the car or something like, and you're not complying, they're going to draw a gun.
Yep.
I mean, things can go south so fast, and it's like you said, they don't care what you're telling them. I mean,
Right.
their focus is protecting themselves, and they're treating you as you're dangerous, um, and it can go really bad. And if it goes all the way to the point that it did for that one individual you mentioned, where they get charged and spent the night in jail, even though the charges get dropped, that is never off your record.
Right.
You will always have an arrest on your record. So the next person who pulls you over, they're not going to get any of the detail that you have cataplexy or anything. As soon as they run your license plate, like before they even talk to you, they're going to see you've been arrested before. So now they're going to come up there thinking that you have a problem background,
Yep.
and none of that's going to be come through. None of that medical information is going to come through the system, until after the fact.
Yep. Exactly.
And it's scary. I
It is
mean,
really scary.
it's and I don't know if you can see it, but
Yeah.
I in our county, of course, this is only at a county level. I don't know if it'll focus or
Oh, it's
not.
blurred.
um,
Yeah, wait. Okay, so they have this thing they call the blue. Maybe I can unblur this or something. I don't know what's going on with it. Video. Um, but this might be beneficial for you as you're putting your toolkit together. But if you could get something like this recognized as at the states level, they call it the blue envelope program. So you're supposed to put your license and registration and everything in here right along with like that cataplexy description, et cetera. And in Summit County, then the officer's required to look at that documentation. And they even have little stickers to put in your back window.
Oh,
But
cool.
yeah, but like I said, this is only a Summit County level program. It's not even a state level program. Um, but that something like that, I think, since there's no way to put medical information, in their electronic,
Right.
Justice Department database that's going to pull up everything, on your background. Yeah, I think you need some sort of external notification thing. But yeah, it's just, But yeah, it's scary. I mean, that being pulled over by a police officer nowadays that I have cataplexy is one of the things I fear the most because I
You
know
know,
how bad it can go really fast.
yeah, and Kevin, you really make a good point too, because as a former HR professional, I did background checks, um,
Hmm.
and that's something. You're right. It's going to show up now. Yes, it's going to show up that it's been adjudicated, that it's been cleared, but it does show up.
Exactly.
And sometimes I've even had it where they did not make it, they didn't clear it, and then they had to go clear it for us to order in order for me to hire that person.
Hmm.
And so, yes, those types of things can happen unnecessarily, in
Yeah.
these types of
Oh
situations.
yeah. And even if, yeah, I mean, trying to get something out of the justice system record that shouldn't be there is nearly impossible
Right,
because that propagates through so many different databases and states and everything
right,
else that
right.
but yeah, so that is a scary one. I think the blue envelope thing is probably a step in the right direction. Hopefully it can maybe be something electronic and or whatnot in the future. And
Yeah,
but I don't know, maybe it's like yeah, I don't have an answer for it. I can just tell you that it's very scary because, the officers are busy depending on what else is going on in the night, and how essentially how much their trauma and PTSD is triggering, it for whatever's happening. Like there's no end to like this is how people end up accidentally arrested or even accidentally shot, is crap like
yeah,
this.
right,
So,
exactly. And we all know
So,
that too, like, especially when
Mhm.
we're sleep deprived and we get agitated, and,
yeah,
that could
And
definitely set an officer off, you know, pulling
mm,
out a gun, or that kind of stuff. Just, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I
And
want to just jump in. I think
yeah,
I don't have the card that I actually have in my wallet. This is like it. I've 3D printed it. Rachel showed one earlier,
yeah,
but mine that is about cataplexy doesn't. I think on the back it says a symptom of narcolepsy, but I like to emphasize that it's just a neurological physiologic event or physiological neurologic event, and like not to try to hide the narcolepsy, but just to hand that if you feel like in that instance, as they walk up and they ask you for your license, like potentially just adding that in with it could potentially help. But I don't know. I also am like not trying to
okay.
present it if it's not going to be the narcolepsy, especially because then they're going to be like, "Are you a drunk driver?" Blah blah blah. Like
Yeah. And then,
opens
yeah.
a
the
door.
thing with
But
Assumptions,
cataplexy too, I got to tell you that hardly any officer is going to know what that is.
any idea?
right,
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah, they're not going to have any idea. And then it goes back to what you mentioned earlier, which is the most important piece, is they don't care.
Yeah.
When you're
That's
in that situation at that moment, what they do care about is if they give you an instruction, did you comply? If
yep,
you did not comply, there's a problem and they don't care what the problem is. You are now non-compliant and you have just like significantly escalated the risk and stress of the situation.
yeah,
And the problem with cataplexy is you can't comply. You know?
no, I agree.
yeah.
That's like if you have, I think, with the right wording, and I don't know, I mean, comparing it, saying the neurological, physical, not explaining it too much because they're not going to read more than what's just a few bits of it. But right at the top, if you can present it, it could help a little bit. But I'm 100% with you. I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not.
right. Well, I mean, that's
I'm
like what
scared
happened,
of
with
it
the
too.
first person I mentioned, right? They say I have cataplexis. They didn't care because they don't know what it is. They just, you're a liar,
Mhm.
It happened in front of their eyes, and they still
Mhm.
are like, "You're a liar."
Mhm.
This is pretend. You're pretending to get out of this. And again, I mean, hey, I understand at the same point why they act like that. Because yeah, people do lie. People try to get away from being arrested, but there does have to be a middle ground here. It just can't be this extreme, thought of everyone's always a liar, Again, it doesn't work. I mean, and more today, we're seeing that, that we just need to change our attitude around this, and have
Open
more
the mind.
compassion and understanding. Uh,
Yeah, I think that's going to be hard to do because it's the
right?
system's going the other direction.
Yeah.
And
I know
so,
exactly.
No, yeah, so I think the best is try to advertise at least what it is and that you have a problem. And I do stuff like, I got disabled veteran license plate on my vehicle, and it's pretty much everything I can think of to kind of
Right.
broadcast it because to try to get them at that split second, when they're making their initial assumptions and assessments, to try to make them think, hey, this is an okay guy, like because
Right.
otherwise, it goes bad so fast. It's just unbelievable,
It does.
and it just that's their training and that's their approach. And I mean, you can even see it. Like, I don't know, you might remember, like the cultures even change. Like when I was a kid, you guys, it's probably the same for you guys, but you've the sheriff in the town and the state troopers, like, they wore like kind of their khaki uniforms with badges and stuff and hats, and they were more integrated with the society. They weren't so threatening. Nowadays, they come up with all this gear on. They look like some sort of paramilitary outfit. It's
Right.
and that is true. As a military veteran, that is triggering for me. So just an officer coming up looking like that causes me cataplexy. So,
Wow. Yeah.
so
Man.
it's yeah. So the law enforcement scares me more than anything. So
No, I hear you. Yeah,
No,
I'm right
right.
there with you, man. And it seems like even more today is just becoming more scary. Unfortunately. Yeah. So, but
yeah.
anybody else? Anybody else have any questions about anything before we end the session? Good deal. Yeah. So just so you know, just again, just I threw in those links from the TSA. You're more than welcome just to go ahead, click on those. A lot of great information there. And again, if you have any questions, yeah, you can always reach out to us. I'm always here if you ever want to talk. Again, you can find me. In our private community. I think all of you are actually in our private community. You can throw me a private message, whatever. Always willing to meet with anybody, talk. We just talk about anything if you want. Love to do that. So, but yeah, with all that said, everyone, yeah,
Oh,
we could
there
definitely,
was one more thing I was gonna
yeah,
mention was so talking when they were putting together this blue envelope program, I asked them like what exactly do they want in there, and we discussed like the definition of cataplexy, and is an officer going to read an entire page? Probably not.
yeah,
So
right,
they told me to put some keywords up front like can be perceived as drunkenness, drug use,
Mm.
um,
oh yeah,
can cause inability to speak, inability to comply, things like that.
nice,
It's
100%.
yeah, that's great, yeah,
Yeah, I like
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
physiological neurologic event. It's a neurologic event. It's not like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
it's
great
like
way
a
of putting it,
seizure. I mean,
right,
not
and
to just to try to seizure is always compared and it's not the same, but they
Yeah.
recognize
right.
what that is. So,
Right. Yeah, and again, yeah, somebody could mistake it. If they're not aware, they could mistaken it as a seizure, right? I mean,
Oh,
and
yeah.
again, I actually had a friend who had seizure, got arrested, and died in the jail.
oh my gosh.
You
Oh,
know,
man.
oh yeah, so I mean, it's something that definitely happens, and it's unfortunate, but yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna keep on educating everybody so that hey, we can start getting people feeling compassion about this, uh,
Yeah.
especially with feeling more compassion about getting restful sleep. Our society sucks
Yeah.
at it. I'm sorry, the VP CEOs, those people that want to just be work hogs and work all night long.
But they don't
you're
do
not
that.
you're not leading when you're doing that, right? You are not leading by example. You are leading poorly by example. It's not what you need to be doing. If you want to have people doing amazing things for your company in the workplace, then get them to do restful sleep. Appreciate restful sleep. No more staying up at night doing all this crazy stuff, getting 4 hours of sleep, and then celebrating. I mean, again, I'll never forget the time when my VP on a big conference call is talking about how they have insomnia, but then at the same time they're celebrating my director, answering and working late nights. And I'm just like, what's wrong with this messaging here? This
Yeah.
is a big problem, and it
Yeah.
needs to be resolved. We got to
Yeah.
stop this. you're not special or anything like that because you can stay
Can't
late
really
at night.
fight.
Sorry,
Yeah.
but
There's
at,
something you mentioned that made me think I should tell you something else as you're
yeah,
putting together this kit. If it does go as far as you actually get detained and you end up at jail, you should know that they will take away all of your medications. Um, I mean, that's like it's scary how many people die in
yep,
jail. You know,
yeah,
they will not give you any medications. The doctor who comes in the next day, hopefully it's the next day if you're arrested on a weekday, but they may not even put you on the same medications. You know, they do their own assessment. And, but let's say you get arrested on a Friday night or something. That means you don't get to see a doctor until Monday.
right,
Like I'm in pretty bad shape if I go that long without medications. And the saddest thing is, like you've said before, nobody cares at all. They don't care if you're shaking and falling on the ground. They just leave you there, you know?
right.
So, so yeah, that's but something to think about if if you put it in there at all. But yeah, that I mean, I don't know how you would handle it, but you know, there obviously the reason for all that is the number of people who come in with drug-seeking behaviors,
Right.
and they're trying to pretend they have a bunch of things to get prescriptions,
Yeah.
and so their answer to that makes actually people who legitimately have medical needs suffer,
Yeah.
and and yeah, it's horrible. So yeah, they have a lot of the way this culture has gone right now. Yes, it's you're treated any of everything that you think you know about the justice system is wrong. Innocent till proven guilty, all that that's bullshit. It is not what it's like anymore. You know, and if you get in there, nobody cares. They treat you like a dirtbag. They treat you like a liar. They, you know, just, you know, and it's just it can be very bad for people who have medical issues. So,
Yes, it can.
so it is a big, I'm glad you're working on it, but I just want like
Oh
to
yeah.
help you understand. It sounds like you have an idea, but I don't know until you've kind of gone through processing once by yourself. It's hard to really understand how big of a deal it is.
Right.
But you are treated like, you know, I've treated farm animals better, you know. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I'm trying to create some visual representation into cataplexy. I don't know, where it's going
You,
to end up, but I've been working hard on that, and
well,
that
you've been
would
doing a
be one
great
way to.
job.
You are. No,
yeah,
you're
it's a
doing a
great
great
job.
job.
We
I
love
mean,
your
again,
artwork, Solomon.
this
Here,
is
I can
something
show
to
you
take
one
time.
thing here if you want to just real quick. Or let me see.
All right.
Hold on. That's not the one I'm even, some sort of
Yeah, that's real neat.
something like this. I don't know, but I think visually trying to get it across would be one more step in the direction to make it quick and like comprehensive.
Right.
But
Right. And that's, today, I mean, that's pretty much how everybody is. They want something quick, comprehensive, no more like word walls, things like that, especially in moments where you're being pulled over or whatever. Um,
exactly.
I kind of like, just those keywords, right? That really, define, what the person could be experiencing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and I've changed mine a few times since traveling and whatnot, and I've got like a little, I can manually enter my own stuff on that medic alert thing, the dog tag, because it's a scan thing.
right. Okay.
But yeah, I mean like slurred speech,
Yep.
Yep.
shaking, weakness, yeah,
Slouching,
those are the
drooping.
ones that anyway, that I've gotten the best feedback on working with the local law enforcement on that blue, because and they I'm not working with them on there's just they know that I have narcolepsy and they were just kind of like, okay, let's we can use an example. They said another one though, the one of the main reasons they're putting it together were people with uh Asperger's or significant
Hmm.
I forget what you call that.
Autism.
Memory
Yes,
loss.
yes, autism.
Hmm.
The primary driver for this was autism because that can come across as aggressive and threatening, and that's what triggered it in our county. Um, And then since I got a packet, I was asking them, hey, what do I put in here? So I've been going back and forth a bit on it, but it's only been in place now for like, I don't even think a year yet. So
That's good. Summit County is great. I commend
Yeah,
them on that. That's good.
I remember
Yeah.
9 News actually covered that blue envelope. I remember that
Oh
now.
yeah, cool.
Yeah, 9 News covered that. Yeah, so it's really cool. And I do. I mean, we're always going to Pine Valley, so we're always like in your area. We just love that area over there. We always stay away from Highway 70.
Yeah, yeah, 70's rough. And,
Yeah, it's a beautiful area where you're at, man. We'll
Mm,
definitely,
good
I'll
for you.
definitely have to say hi to you when we pass by there sometime.
Oh, yeah.
sounds good.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Hey, I want to let you all go. Hey, this was a great one. Thank you all again for everything. Great
And
conversations
thank you.
here. And yeah, I can't wait to have the TSA back. And then, yeah, we got some great NapChats lined up for this year. So stay tuned for all that.
Until
Thank you.
next time,
That's right. Until
same
next
nap
time.
time,
That's right.
same nap channel.
Great
What's
job,
that?
Rachel.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.